Hi, my name is Patricia Kathleen, and this podcast series will contain interviews I conduct with women, female identified, and non binary individuals regarding their professional stories and personal narrative as it relates to their perspective. This podcast is designed to hold a space for all individuals to learn from their counterparts, regardless of age, status, or industry. We intend to transparently investigate the evolving global dialogue regarding underrepresented figures in all industries across the USA and abroad. By hosting these stories and conversations, we aim to contribute to the changing platform and representation of these individuals for the future. Now let's start the conversation. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I'm your host, Patricia, and today I'm excited to be sitting down with Tina Brown. She's the founder and CEO of a couple of different companies. You can find out more about her companies and her nonprofit on www.mysisterskeeperexpo.com. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I can't wait to kind of climb through. You have a production company, and you have this nonprofit, Starbound, and then you have My Sister's Keeper Expo, and they all kind of have this beautiful narrative between the three of them. And I want to dive into each of those. But before we get to that, I want to tell everyone listening, I have a bio that I'll be reading on Tina to give everyone this kind of platform of her professional history. But before we get to that, a roadmap of today's podcast will follow the same trajectory as all of those in this podcast series. Namely, we'll start by looking at Tina's academic background, early professional life, and personal narrative that kind of draws us to where she is now. And then we'll start look towards unpacking her nonprofit, Starbound Inc., her production company, Tina Brown Productions, and her My Sister's Keeper Expo. We'll get into some of the logistics of who, what, when, where, why, how, with funding, founders, co-founders, all of those things, growth that all of those endeavors have received since they've been launched. And then we'll turn our efforts towards looking at goals that she has for the next 1 to 3 years for herself and her business endeavors. And then we'll wrap everything up with advice that Tina may have for those of you who are looking to get involved or contact her or emulate some of what she has done. A quick bio on Tina before I start peppering her with questions. Tina Brown was born in San Francisco, California. 3 days after her birth, she was abandoned by her biological mother and left on the doorstep of couple Mr. and Mrs. Walker, who raised her as their own. Later, a runaway and teenage mother, Tina still continued her education, taking up criminal justice at San Francisco City College. She has been employed with the city and county of San Francisco for 25 years. Tina's nonprofit organization, Starbound Inc., is a true reflection of the passion she has for helping teenagers, and her love of music made her dream come true when she founded her own production company, Tina Brown Productions, where she serves as CEO. After receiving a vision from God, Tina began to provide financial wealth, empowerment, and health wellness resources for women through My Sister's Keeper Expo, created in 2015. Tina hosted her third annual expo in October of 2018 and offered women the resources and support needed for their success. In spite of her busy schedule, Tina always places her Christian life first. She is an active member of her church as a servant leader for the women's ministry. Tina's life has been a display of strength and courage mixed with compassion and love. Tina has always dreamed of being able to help teenagers reach their dreams. So Tina, I think it's such a powerful bio that you have. It's such a mixture of the endeavors that you're currently involved in and your pursuit and ethos that you run your life by. But before we get to all of that, I'm hoping that you can enumerate a little bit further on what I spoke about in reading your bio. If you can tell everyone listening about your academic background and early professional life that brought you to launching your first business endeavor.
Okay. I would start off by saying that I was a young girl, 10 and a half, turning 11. I ended up being homeless in the streets. I didn't have I didn't go to school at that time. During that time period, it was like a 2.5 year time period. Became a teenage mom, had my children, and at that time I started to pursue going back to school. I went to teen pregnancy school, and then I finished high school, and then I attended City College, and that's where I got my criminal justice information, my classes. I didn't graduate from there because it became the fact that I had to work and take care of my children at that time. So I wasn't able to finish that. And of course, life goes on. They say it's never too late. So as life has calmed down a little bit, when it calms down, that's something that I will entertain pursuing to go back.
Absolutely. It never is. And for me, the older I get, the more, I get out of my educational training returning. I kind of feel like we do it backwards
Right.
in this country. I've had a lot of professors speak to this as well, but saying, you should work when you're young and go to school when you're older and can handle it, and
Right.
all of those thoughts. I'm wondering about, so you've had three endeavors that I want to unpack here today. I'm sure you've had a gazillion more than that, but Starbound Inc. I want to know, did your nonprofit come first? Did the production company or My Sister's Keeper Expo?
The nonprofit was first, actually. And it,
Okay.
when I listen to you read the bio, I'm like, oh wow, that's three different companies, but each one represented a piece of me where I was at that particular time,
Yeah.
and how I developed that particular company.
So what was the impetus for starting it? I mean, it's obvious that it was connected to your own pursuit and your own life as a young teenager undergoing more than the average stressors. Did you have a directional goal when you launched that nonprofit as to how you were going to implement it and which communities or groups you were going to address?
Actually, no, it was actually suggested to me. I've always wanted to help young girls because I was that young girl that didn't have anyone to feed into me or to talk to. So with that, I always worked with young girls, and I was talking to her name is Jamila actually one day, and she was like, "You should start a nonprofit." I'm like, "What's a nonprofit?"
Yeah.
And she began to explain, and so she offered to help me do that, and that's how Starbound Inc. was incorporated. And even though it was incorporated, I still didn't have the knowledge or didn't use it to its full capacity at that time because it was started in 2012. I just continued to help the girls on my own funding because I knew how important it was. And with that, Starbound starts to, take effect and get donations for, like trips, going to a game or to
Yeah.
do that type of thing. Um,
It's a major undertaking. Did you go through any type of an accelerator, or how did you garner all of the knowledge? Nonprofits are such a different beast, right? They're like their own form of business. They have their own set of laws and rules. Did you have an advisor or a mentor that advised you, or just kind of figured it out as you went?
No, I figured it along the way. Jamila set up the whole nonprofit itself. When I received my paperwork, I was already a nonprofit. So it was just at that time where I had to, get a DUNS number and get an EIN number, those type of things.
Yeah.
But I learned as I go. I must say that everything in my life, unfortunately, was like self-taught.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, and the information and the utility of knowledge when self-taught is usually much more deep. It runs deeper. It has a different effect on the person and the way that they run the business.
Yes.
In my humble opinion. I'm wondering, so has there been kind of a growth with it since you launched in 2012 and it's a nonprofit which has some flexibility? Has it changed and manifested over the years? Have there been some quieter years and some heavier years? And also, do you ally with other nonprofits who have similar goals and motives?
Actually, I did not. I didn't network at that time. I'm just starting to really take advantage of the nonprofit and collaborate with different nonprofits as I've gotten older and seen how it really works and how um, more it could thrive more with the collaborations, like Larkin Street Youth that's in San Francisco, where they have their youth programs,
Yeah.
and it focused on housing, but it also focused on speakers coming in and those type of things. So I've been able to collaborate a little bit with them. And then we have Huckleberry House, which is a house for runaways, which was right down the street where I reside at, where I grew up at. And so I'm able to talk to young kids from there as well.
That's awesome. So when did the production company, Tina Brown Productions, come along?
That came along in actually in 2014 because as I was homeless out there in the streets, I've always had music. So I have a great love for music. So I would listen to particular artists and things like that. And I wanted to see how I can make that happen and bring it to the Bay Area. So I started off with my church, like doing a church prayer breakfast, and I would bring in certain artists to come in and perform. And then it became like that was just like secondhand. I just knew how to do that. Again, it's crazy. I was blessed to have that skill set. I worked at the ABFF as a volunteer. So I've had different people that were able to pour into me to where I was like, I think I want to have my own production company. I think I want to, do that. I wanted to do film, but it's just, I still haven't graduated to that as yet, to tell my story and to tell other stories that people encounter in their lifespan.
Absolutely. So the storytelling, the production company, does it have like a specialty or an area, a population, a group that it centers more towards, or is it kind of anything that lands in your lap or any projects that you find interesting?
It's really R&B music and Christian music.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds like that from the basis of launching within the church. I'm wondering, when do you feel like that production company launched, if you don't have a specific date? Do you have a year that you kind of felt like it was founded? And how long before was it before My Sister's Keeper Expo came along?
That launched in 2014,
Right.
actually. It was the summer. It was the summer because my first show was in November 4th in 2014. So, yeah.
Okay. And then My Sister's Keeper Expo. When did the idea for this come along, and what was the impetus or the story behind developing it?
In 2014, once I launched Tina Brown Productions, I found out I started to really get to know myself, because in life you're just dealing with punches that come along the way. So that's when I started to realize that I was really a broken person,
Mm.
and my self-esteem was really shot to an extent. So because it got to a point with the shows, I wanted to do more, but then I would hear that little voice that said you couldn't do it.
Mm.
All my past failures came to creep up behind me. So I realized when I realized that I was broken, I started to go out and get help. I started to go to workshops and listen to different people speak. And I went to Dallas for TD Jakes. He has a Woman That Are Not Loose event, MegaFest, every year. And that's where I went there, and I had a vision that night from God. It was a room full of women, and and I was like, well, I do that with my prayer breakfast. So I really, shoot it off. However, later on, I went to a symposium, and the girl there, her name is Tanisha Warner, she talked about how dreams impact us, how they're from, God has things that he wants us to do. And afterwards, I connected with her, and I just shared a little pieces of me and how I was fearful and how I didn't feel good enough. I felt less than. And we talked a lot. And then there formed My Sister's Keeper, because I had a conversation with a young girl, and she was pregnant, and she didn't think she was going to make it. She didn't think that there was no life ahead of her. She just thought it was over. And I began to share my story with her, and she ended up saying, I wish I had a sister. And when she said that, that resonated so well with me, because I did too. So there was My Sister's Keeper. And it's really to build women up where I'm at. Like I would, in your 40s, you think you're supposed to have it all together, but some people, life showed up for them and they didn't have it all together. So it's to help get our finances. I didn't care about money. It was just, I was doing money, doing my girls programs, feeding my production company. I really didn't have the solid knowledge of how I'm supposed to save, or what stocks So what are stocks about? Things like that. So with My Sister's Keeper, I brought that message to the Bay Area for them to hear the different speakers speak about things that was relatable to us and how it affects our community.
That's exciting, and I think it's so crucial. People think that everyone's connected to all pieces of knowledge, with the advent of social media, and there is particularly, in the industries and the people that I work with, which are women, female identified, and non-binary individuals. There are huge pockets still completely mystifying. You mentioned the stock market and things like that. I have very seasoned sage colleagues, who are female or female identified, that are still terrified of those systems, don't understand them, and claim that they don't want to get involved with them. And so I think that breaking open those systems that have been largely dominated by, a different gender or group is really important. I'm wondering, can you kind of unpack, or at least give us like a bird's eye view of what an expo event would have been like? Did it change from, the first one to the last one that you had? And was the last one in 2018 or 2019?
Well, actually, it was in 2018. I didn't do one last year. I was working on the one for May 2020, but then
Yeah,
COVID, I say COVID-19 hit.
absolutely. So
Um,
what was the bird's eye view for the last one in 2018? Was it multi-day? Was it one day?
it was
Were there
one
breakout sessions?
Yes, one day breakout sessions, different speakers coming in talking about different topics. Lunch was provided. We honored at that year we had honored Renelle. She's a local DJ in the Bay Area. We honored her. We honored Carolyn Tyler, and Wanda Durant was our keynote speaker for that
Nice.
year.
So, has the structure changed since you created it in 2015? I mean, you had this 3-year stint, but I hear frequently from people who host festivals or founders of events and things of this nature, you kind of massage it to to the industry and to the needs of the attendees and things like that. What
Yeah.
changes existed over the 3 years that it was going up?
It actually, the interest really grew. It grew probably because of the not the topics that were discussed.
Mm.
My first one, was like all day, and I had MC Light, that keynote speaker, and I massaged it to because I always wanted more. So I'm always reaching a high bar,
Yeah.
reaching really high. So I always wanted to be better than the last year, and I focus on whatever topic whatever's going on in this particular season. Those are the speakers that I want to come speak and share with us to give us that knowledge and that insight,
Yeah.
to make us feel better. It's the hard part, you didn't ask, is getting sponsors and stuff on board. Because there again, I spent all my money on into the program itself, but eventually that'll come.
Do you think that moving forward, you'll move some of it into a virtual space? Or do you think that you're far enough out from the next one, there'll be a vaccine, people will return to
Yes.
non-social distancing? Also, do you think that the format could be conveyed as powerfully if it wasn't in person? I've spoken to a lot of people that say, even if I can employ this Zoom aspect, the point of it was being in this group of people.
Yes, I totally agree. I totally agree. That's why I haven't done it. I had the option to do it virtual for this year, but I declined because it's the atmosphere, the feelings, it's not as real. I mean, it's not as authentic as being there in person.
Yeah, absolutely. So will you postpone the lineup that you were getting ready for in 2020, or will you completely revamp the entire thing for 2021?
I'm going to revamp it for 2021, not because I think this year is pretty much halfway gone, and
Yeah,
I want to focus on getting a fresh start. So Angela Davis was our keynote speaker this year. Hopefully she'll still be able to be on board for next year, but it'll be May 1st, 2021. That's the date scheduled.
May 1st, 2021.
Yes.
Excellent. And I'm sure you'll update it on my sister's
Yes.
keeper
Yes. I
expo.com for
Yes, I'm
everyone
waiting for
listening.
confirmation from the vendor, but that date is available at that space. But as soon as I get the green light, then that's the tentative date.
Okay. And do you have other social handles that people can kind of follow some of this across with you?
I have My Sister's Keeper Expo on Instagram, My Sister's Keeper on Facebook, and LinkedIn, My
Cool.
Sister's Keeper. Yes.
Yeah, so everyone can kind of connect on their favorite and then follow it. Yeah, it sounds like a dynamite, at least keynote. So as everyone who's in the area should look into attending. I'm wondering, I've spoken with a lot of founders over the past couple of months with the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's given people, in addition to the sorrow and the sadness, a lot of people have taken the time to reflect and even reassess business, personal, conversationalize their life with itself, with the outside world. And I'm wondering if you have done that with some of your endeavors and any changes that have come up for you over the past couple of months, or any goals that have surfaced as a result of this kind of forced meditation that people have been having.
Uh, Actually, I haven't had much time to sit because I'm an essential worker. So therefore,
Oh,
I'm out there front line. I work for the city and county homeless department. So I've been out there every day um, with.
yeah, that's so you are a unicorn in the people I've been speaking to. And I first want to just say thank you for your service and for being, brave and helping us all out. Being an essential worker has its own incredible bag of baggage. I
Yes.
can't even imagine. So I do kind of want to dive into that because you're the first person that I've spoken to that is front lines thus far since the pandemic hit. Has the How has the rhetoric within your department been regarding the safety and the way that the city of San Francisco is handling it?
I think the city of San Francisco is handling it very well. I'm really, really supportive of our mayor, Mayor Breed. Our department actually is focused on homelessness, so of course, it has like tripled as far as, because our main goal is to get the people off the street and into hotels. So we're setting that up, and that takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of patience. But in the end, we'll get through it. We probably won't hit everyone, and that's the reality part of it, but we'll hit majority.
Has there been any talk about post? And I live in San Diego, and likewise, we have these efforts to help individuals who are in homelessness reconvene right now to our international conference center and a couple of other places that they've loosened up. But there have been a lot of grassroots movements to give these individuals an opportunity not to return to the streets, or start implementing mental health systems now that, we've done this move. There's been a lot of talk about not having a return to prior
Right.
moments. Has there been any of that in the city of San Francisco?
Yes, yes, there is. There's talks about it as far as, because it would be ridiculous to house all these people, and then once the COVID is over, we release them back to the street. That would be
Hmm.
all the work done basically in vain. So they are working on programs to keep them housed. Um, it's just a matter of budgeting and all the federal and all these other Congress, Senate's votes and
Yeah,
things that's beyond my control. But it
yeah.
is, there are plans in place.
Interesting. So you haven't had time to sit and reflect, as I very naively asked. I'm wondering, as you've gone in and day out, with the kind of the scarcity of people on the streets and things like that, have you ruminated to yourself? Have there been thoughts that came over you about anything that's uplifting, things that you've noticed, during this incredible time of hardship for people, particularly people who are homeless? The idea of sheltering in place when you don't have a shelter is abusive and mean, and having those thoughts you must have had early on. I'm wondering if you can share any nuggets of hopefulness or even lessons that you kind of washed over you or that you had with yourself.
Well, for me, being homeless, I mean, I consider the homeless community my community. I take that real personal because I walked those streets that they've walked. I've lived on some of those streets that they sleep on. So I get that part of it. And quiet as it kept, we have our own community. So the hopefulness comes out of, well, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna survive this. Whether you have your people that are in addictions, your streetwalkers, still there's a sense of that community sticking together and trying to go whichever way is beneficial to them, and how we can stick to, like, I know people that want to stay right here in this area, so I take it back to my office. Well, we got to find hotels. We have to find a spot where these people could just stay right here because this is their comfort zone. We can't
Yeah.
remove people out of their comfort zones. It becomes that's a whole nother beast. So I see people on the street, yes, but they're still hopeful. They're 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 hopeful that things will get better.
Yeah. Absolutely. And everyone needs hope, and I think to be able to be hopeful is crucial. I'm wondering, where do you see uh like the production company? You said you were heading into film. Do you see any like I feel like there's an opportunity for cross pollination between some of your companies. Have you ever thought about bringing your production company into the expo and utilizing some of that there in your future, or is it still kind of disparate, separate measures?
I've thought about it, but I would be wearing too many hats at one time. So I have to
Right.
start to reach out. I have to learn to delegate and pick different people that those are in their field. I right now my mindset is focused. I want to do a best me housing. I want to provide housing for young women. I'm trying to get capital to purchase a building or even lease a building for 5 years because I want to start that process. Because again, that's the walk that I come from. So at the end of the day, that's something that I didn't think I could do, but
Hmm.
being an essential worker and being put in a position where now I'm a project manager for starting up a hotel and putting people in it, I was like, I could do this and I can help. I could give back. I always, always, always want to just give back.
Yeah.
Um, because I know that journey. So that's on my pipeline now. And as far as Tina Brown Productions, I'm trying to work on getting started my own podcast. I just have to figure out a day and a time
Yeah.
and talk about things that go on in the community and how we're affected by that and what change can take place for us all to be able to thrive, not just live, thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. It's a powerful topic that was never ending for a podcast. I would tune in immediately. Do you, so would you do this kind of dream that's formulating right now because of all of the access that you have in implementing these structures for your current work with the city of San Francisco? Would it be under Starbound? Would you do that under your nonprofit?
Definitely.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. And I would actually have to quit my job. So there goes that fear again, because it'd be a
Yeah.
conflict of interest, right?
Yeah.
There goes the fear again, because I'm like, I can't just do it because I don't have the funding to get a building or to finance a building. So, that kind of makes me kind of nervous. But, people told me to do fundraisers and I probably will, but it just takes me a little longer. But that's a goal that I would love to accomplish. I would love to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, if you're interested in getting involved in any of those activities, reach out and throw some lifelines into the water with Tina. I think that there's a lot of collaboration that can happen when you've got a lot of the wisdom and stuff like that, and you need some of the energy. And I think
Yes.
that there are a lot of people out there with energy and resources that you can collaborate on. Partnering up, I think, as a 43-year-old woman, I haven't done half the collaborating and partnering that I ought to have done, that a lot of my male colleagues have done, because I was too busy working twice as hard as them, and doing
Right,
different things. And as women coming together as well, there's unity there,
right.
and so yeah, reach out to Tina. I'm wondering, I want to wrap everything up with, I always ask this in the end, and I don't know if this doesn't resonate with you, I can come up with a different analogy, Tina, but you'll bear with me. I am wondering if someone came up to you tomorrow, without the COVID concerns, they were actually able to speak with you without being concerned within a 6-foot radius. And it was a woman or a female identified non-binary, pretty much anyone other than a cisgendered male man. And they said, listen, I am, I've had this very interesting past, and it's been riddled by a lot of struggle, but a lot of lessons and a lot of accumulation of knowledge. And I've been gifted with this faith and all of these things that I have. And I'm looking to launch like a nonprofit and maybe another company. What are the top 3 pieces of advice you would give that individual, knowing what you know now?
My first one would be is to plan. And I I just did everything just off a thought process or vision. Just I think I would say plan. I would say you have to put on let's see, your armor, because you have to be strong, because everything doesn't happen just like that. It doesn't. And focus on finances so
Mm.
that you won't be in the struggle and the business won't take such hard hits. I took so many hits um, to keep it going. So those are finance, strength. You definitely need strength to get through whatever journey you're trying to start. I mean, and faith. You got to believe if it's something that's on you, you got to believe that you'll get through it and it will happen.
Nice. I like that form of armor being strength that's both internal and
Yeah.
external.
Yes.
And I mean, financial knowledge to be able to alleviate early stage struggle with any endeavor is another form of armor. That's a really great visual. Well, Tina, we are out of time, but I just want to thank you so much. I really appreciate everything that you're doing, your goals in all of your endeavors, My Sister's Keeper Expo, your nonprofit Starbound Inc., and your production company. They all align really a great deal with what our focus at Patricia Kathleen Podcast and my film company do. And I really appreciate the work that you're putting into humanity. We need it.
Oh, thank you. And again, thank you for having me, Miss Patricia. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, we've been speaking with Ms. Tina Brown. She's the founder and CEO of My Sister's Keeper Expo.com. You can find her online at that website as well as across her social media handles. Thank you for giving us your time. And until we speak again next time, remember to always bet on yourself. Slancha.